Hi everyone, welcome to Little Wicket Railway. I'm Rob, and in this video we're going behind the scenes on Pete Waterman's Making Tracks 4. Back in October, I was invited by Pete Waterman and the Railnuts to join them at the Great Electric Train Show and experience what it's like to set up and operate Making Tracks 4, which is a 64-foot subsection of the world record-breaking Making Tracks exhibition layout. I was there when they broke the world record at Key Model World Live in April 24 and saw for myself how impressive the full layout was, so I wasn't going to turn down an opportunity to see how this massive model railway was managed. I arrived on site around midday on the Friday before the show, and the team had already spent the morning fixing the boards together and making sure everything was level. And to me, it looked like the layout was nearly done, but apparently unloading and connecting the boards is relatively easy. There was still lots more to be done, and the team wouldn't be finished until close to midnight. The layout is essentially a large oval comprising of a non-scenic 8-track staging area, which feeds a 4-track scenic section that runs from Bushy Park over Bushy Viaduct, passes through Watford Station and Watford Tunnels, before entering the road cutting. Making Tracks has been constantly evolving over the last few years, and an expanded Watford Station area was going to be on display for the first time at the show. Whilst the team were busy stocking up the staging area, which is a mammoth task in itself, Pete Waterman, the man behind Making Tracks, told me how it all began at Chester Cathedral back in 2021.
The cathedral wanted to raise money. They're desperate for money. And they'd had a Lego exhibition which was very successful, but it cost them a lot of money to do it. And they were looking at a railway exhibition because, of course, Thomas Brassey is buried there. And it was his 200th anniversary, so the Dean wanted a model to celebrate the 200 years. So we started, but then of course COVID hit. And over it was 18 months basically laid off, I came up with this idea. I said, look, what we should build is a layout for the kids. Long, fast, straight, kids can fly around, work it themselves. Because I remember when I was a kid, going to my first Christmas show at the Jaguar Daimler Social Club, and just the fact that all these trains were flying around and the points and the signals, that's what excited me. And I said, well, it's great to, you've got great exhibition layouts here today, but that's not what we wanted to do, because I've got a massive O-gauge layout. So that was been my passion, and that's been 20 years of work, when nobody did what we wanted to do in O-gauge, so it's, it's unique. So we thought, well, you can get ready-to-run models now that are so good, you can't really improve them. I mean, you can have a bit, but it's, you're tinkering with it. But kids can get the scenery. They can build their own scenery, they can build it out of cardboard boxes, cornflake boxes, any old Christmas trees, they can do what they want. And we thought, that's the way to really get, people back into it. We had no idea how successful it was going to be, and it was huge. I mean huge. There was like 40,000 visitors. We've raised, a significant amount of money, just under £1 million for the cathedral with model railways. But the thing is, it's not about us. We had 5,000 kids driving this year. So 5,000 kids actually got tickets that they'd driven their train. And to see their faces makes it all worthwhile.
So that's how it all started, and Pete is clearly a driving force behind the project, but he hasn't been able to do it alone. I caught up with layout coordinator Chris, who you might recognise from the Cheshire Lines YouTube channel, to find out more about the team involved and what their motivations are.
So the team operates, we call ourselves the Railnuts. It's about 15 of us that come together at Pete's, and we put together big layouts in April of course, we got the world record for the largest portable model railway, which is 208 feet long. And the reason we want to do new stuff that hasn't been done before, like the world record, like all this laser cutting, is to inspire people to get involved with the hobby. When we're at Chester Cathedral, we had 34,000 visitors come to see us, which is amazing. But we actually drove with over 7,000 children and adults. And because we're using the tablets, what we're able to do is give a child or anybody who wants to drive a train the chance to actually drive a train around a 64-foot layout, which is amazing, right? And we get, it's so great to see the reaction of kids and other people having a go with the railway. And if we can just get a small fraction of those to go away and actually go home and build something, that is our job. It's to kind of inspire people to actually go make things, and that might bring on our next generation of engineers. Who knows? But that's what we're about, is inspiring people to get involved with model railways.
I watched the layout construction progress throughout the afternoon, and most of the work was taking place around the new Watford station area, with the location of buildings being adjusted and finishing touches made to the scenery. Here's Chris to explain what's changed since the last outing at Chester Cathedral.
Any of our visitors to Chester Cathedral will remember Watford Junction is our main station, and at the cathedral we just had the 4 platforms, and it looked very rural, and of course Watford Junction isn't rural at all. So we came away, and in the last 5 weeks we've tried to urbanise it far more than it was at Chester Cathedral. So we've increased both sides of the station by 2 feet. So we've gone 2 feet that way, 2 feet this way. We've built some flats, and we've put in a marvellous station. All these are designed by Phil. They're all laser cut, and they kind of click together like a big Lego kit. Then we paint it up. And we also use a lot of the modern technologies, laser cutting, 3D printing. So we've been able to put all of this extra detail in, the bike sheds, the art installation outside the station, just to bring it to life a bit more for people.
And making all these improvements in such a short space of time has been a real challenge.
This represents more modelling than I care to admit. When we finished at the cathedral, we really wanted to redo Watford, because we just didn't feel that it did the station justice. But we only had 6 weeks to do it. So what you see here is the block of flats, the station, the whole of the third rail, the overground, all of this is all brand new.
Because the layout is so big, you might think that small details would have been overlooked, but that's not the case.
This little piece here, I've been working 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. All the trees, I mean, you know, trees I'm fanatical about, you know. And so I'm always looking at other people's trees and wanting to do things different, you know. I'm trying to improve all the time. Phil didn't want 1 tree, he wanted 7 trees. But 1 tree is a week's work. So there's 7 weeks work. I've got to make that in less than 3 days. So it means that I'm there till 11 o'clock at night, up at 7 in the morning, because you've promised them Phil.
I asked Chris to point out some of the little details that people might not spot and share some of his highlights.
I did the bike sheds, so I'm going to say bike sheds, right? So I quite like the bike sheds. They're behind the trees. People probably won't notice them, but there's about 70 bikes that I've hand painted that go on the bike racks. So that's cool. I also love big architecture. So this station and these flats haven't really been done on model railways before. And that's what we're all about, is trying something new with everything we do with making tracks. So those flats, the station, they're just magnificent, I think.
So if you're lucky enough to see Watford at a show, be sure to take the time to admire Pete's trees and take a minute to appreciate the bike racks and marvel at Phil's impressive tower blocks. As Pete and the Railnuts have demonstrated, a big railway definitely doesn't mean less detail. From the houses on top of the tunnels to the catenary that runs the length of the layout with the pantographs bobbing along underneath, all these little touches are key to the success of a big railway. My favourite area is the road cutting. It's a laser cut kit designed by Phil from PJM Models, and I think the trains look stunning when they run under the birdcage frame. But I wanted to know more about how this railway is actually operated, what rolling stock was used, and the technology involved. Here's Chris to explain.
The layout is made up of 4 loops altogether that go all the way round. And then we have an 8-track fiddle yard, and we'll have about 2 operators per line tomorrow who dispatch a train, send it round, and then they'll bring it back in. But the other operator will shuffle trains in the fiddle yard to make sure there's enough space for the train to come back after it's been round on its journey. We've got a wide variety of stock here, reflecting modern day movements. We have got a couple of heritage trains as well. As you can see, we've got Flying Scotsman here on some blood and custards, and we've also got the brand new Coronation train, which is absolutely superb, from Hornby. So we're running that as a test for them over the next couple of days. But we've got the standard set of Pendolinos, a couple of 730s, 805s, 37 on a Network Rail train here. We've got Pete Waterman's loco, so that was named recently after Pete, so I've put a nameplate on that, so that's 90041. We've got that running round as well. We've got the 16-car Caledonian Sleeper, that's the longest passenger train in the UK, so that always looks really impressive going around the layout. But yeah, we've got a whole set of modern day trains just to reflect what goes on the network as it is today. There are 8 lines in the fiddle yard, 2 fiddle lines per loop, and we control the points at either end via these boards here. So I've got the up fast here, which is coded yellow, and by moving these switches I can change the points here and at the other end to allow trains in and out of the right fiddle line.
So the only points that are operational are part of the staging. There aren't any in the scenic areas, and that's deliberate to keep the layout as simple as possible.
We've got some RFID readers here, so every train, or all the passenger trains, have an RFID tag on them. And what that does is it gives the train a number. As it goes past these readers, it sends the number via a network through to our destination board. And in the destination board is the database, and it reads off the number in the database and then displays where our model train is going to on the destination board.
So on a railway that requires 8 operators, how do they keep track of who's doing what?
So the way we operate the trains is we colour code each of the lines. So I'm currently got the red waistcoat on, red dot on my tablet. So we use the Z21 system via wireless tablets. And the line I'm currently running is the down fast. Lines 1 and 2 with the red dots, so it's all colour coded to be red. And the reason we wear the coloured waistcoats is it can be quite congested inside the layout, so I can see who is operating with me by their red waistcoats. That's even more important when we are operating our 200-foot layout as opposed to the 64 we have here. So on the tablet, I'm going to take out this 220, and it's a simple matter of bringing up the power, and this will take a couple of seconds to get going. And there we go. I've set the points on my red panel here, and that's going out around the layout. And it will come back on the other side, and then I'll be ready to take the next train out, which is a 730.
So that's an overview of Making Tracks 4, but I wanted to know if there was going to be a Making Tracks 5, and if there would be any more after that.
5 I'm doing for the cathedral next year, which is from Bushy, which is obviously round the corner on this layout, all the way down to Carpenter's Park. That will be a new layout just for that, so that'll be different. Next year is our last year. That's it. Then after that, I've got a couple of ideas what I want to do here based on the miniature Wonderland stuff that they do. I'd like to make this bit here, this whole Watford Bushy section, I'd like to make that unique, like a city with the parks and the car showrooms and the sloping houses and the football stuff. I'd like to do that just because I think we can, and I think it's different.
If you'd like to see Making Tracks for yourself, then here's Chris with all the details.
Our next outing will be at the NEC for Model World Live again in April. Then we'll be back at Chester Cathedral, and we've got a bit of a surprise planned in, I think it's August. We're still working on the details of that, and we're hoping to take out the large layout, the 208 feet layout, in October, but we're still working on the plans for that.
So that's a look behind the scenes at Pete Waterman's Making Tracks 4. Hopefully it's given you some interesting insights into how a layout of this size operates. I asked Chris, as someone who's been involved with building a massive world record breaking layout, what advice he'd give to anyone who was thinking about getting involved with the hobby.
Just have a go. Just have a go. It doesn't matter how big the railway, these are big railways, but we all start with a circular track on our carpet. Right, and then we progress from the carpet to a baseboard. Just have a go at making something. It's about practice, learning the skills to make something more involved. But that's the enjoyment of it. It's learning, that journey of learning new things, how to do woodworking, how to do 3D printing. I do all this 3D printing. I've never, up until about a few years ago, never knew what a 3D printer was, but I've taught myself, and that's the enjoyment of this hobby, is there's so much you can do, whether you're interested in electronics or 3D printing or the scenery or railways or the stock. It's just brilliant. That's why I love this hobby so much, because everybody can find their niche in building something that they get enjoyment from, and it's all about that enjoyment. It is really good for people's mental health to get involved with something like this and get off screens, that sort of thing. So that's what we're about, is trying to get people to build things.
And I asked Pete for any advice he'd give to someone considering building a large layout.
Stick to 12 feet, enjoy it.
Big thanks to Chris, Pete and the Railnuts for inviting me down. Special thanks to all the YouTube members and patrons for your support. It's very much appreciated, and your names are up on screen now. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That's about it for this video. I'll leave you with some more shots of trains running around Making Tracks 4. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.